Photography is the traditional way of capturing your special day for years to come. There are many services available when booking a wedding photographer, and these could be determined both by your budget and by your expectations for your wedding album. I went to speak to Brian Russell, photographer of over 20 years, to find out more about the services on offer when booking a wedding photographer. Hello there, Brian.
Good morning.
When booking a stills photographer for your wedding day, what sorts of things should you be bearing in mind?
Most important thing is to make sure that you are talking to the photographer you're going to get on the day. It's very easy when dealing with either larger companies, high street studios, etc., that they could be supplying the services of more than one photographer. So that when you look at an album of photographers' work, are you looking at one man's work or are you looking at a conglomeration of the studio's work? That's the very first question you should be asking. Whose work am I looking at? And is that the photographer I'm going to get on the day? It sounds very obvious, but if you don't ask those questions, you might not be getting what you're expecting.
Absolutely.
Okay?
What sorts of things would you need to know in advance as a photographer?
Like most of the services that are supplied for a wedding, we obviously need to know all the basics, the time, the venues, etc. A stills photographer quite often will be coming to the bride's house to start with, and we need to know and discuss with the bride the time that will be available to take pictures at the bride's house before we move on to the actual venue. We have to be there to try and make sure that we can get some good shots of the wedding party before they leave the house. The bride with the bride's father, the individual shots of the bridesmaids, and generally try and get that done in enough time to leave before the bride so that we can still get across to the service and get some pictures of the potential groom before the bride arrives. Because obviously we need to be then ready for when the bride does arrive to catch that action as well.
Absolutely. And would the amount of time which a couple actually had you in attendance vary from couple to couple?
Definitely. A lot of photographers will offer a service where they cover the house, first of all, as an optional extra, then the service, and then the reception afterwards. Some will work only up until a pretend cutting of the cake shots, having done group shots and romantic shots, that sort of thing, and then will depart before the actual wedding breakfast. Others will offer a service where they may go through the whole night and cover the party in a reportage style, taking pictures of the action as it happens, as well as the speeches and the official cutting of the cake.
So again, find out and specify.
Indeed,
in advance.
it very much depends on your budget.
Obviously technology is moving at a staggering pace, especially in your industry. What sorts of extras can a photographer offer nowadays?
Right, well obviously nowadays we're talking digital photography, and a lot of photographers have gone across to the digital because it can offer so many extra options. We're looking at being able to provide the pictures in black and white, in colour, in sepia, from the original colour capture. And indeed, whereas in days gone by using film, if someone wanted something a little bit more creative, there would be a lot of work done in the darkroom. Now we can change and make pictures combining colour with black and white, colour with sepia, things that just wouldn't have been possible. And it's all through the benefits of the computer. Plus, of course, we can now put all our pictures up onto the internet, on secure areas of websites, so that the guests can purchase their prints after the day. And the bride and groom can look at their pictures while on the honeymoon via the internet.
And I understand that some photographers who have the necessary kit can actually offer prints on the day as well now.
Indeed. I mean, again, with the computers and the printing facilities, there are even photographers out there who are offering prints on the night, a slideshow at the reception of the pictures of the day. Fantastic. With potential for the guests to purchase those on the night. Excellent. Which is a fantastic thing.
Now obviously a camera helps, but is there anything else that you need personally on the day?
As a photographer, I need obviously a good knowledge of the venue that I'm going to. When talking to your photographer, if you can find out, have they any previous experience of the venue, that also helps a great deal, especially if they can then show you examples of work they've done at that venue, even better. It will give you a good feel of what you can expect then from your end results. It's worth also finding out, does the photographer do a recce of the places he's going to prior to the actual day? Not just, oh, I have experience of that, I did it 2 years ago. Will you be going to check that venue the week before to check there's no roadworks happening or anything of that nature? Yes. Have they changed management and their policy on confetti? You know, something of that nature. So it's worth checking that your photographer is up to date with his knowledge as well.
And again, that will vary from photographer to photographer.
Definitely, but again, if you ask,
yes,
you can make sure that your photographer is switched on and working right.
So do as much information gathering as possible.
Definitely.
Is there anything else you'd urge a couple to consider, Brian, when booking a photographer?
When you're at that first meeting, after you've decided on which photographer you're going to go with, you must give them as much information as possible. If you have separated parents, who needs to be shot with who else? Are you just having separate groups, or are all relations happy to be shot together? They need to know those sort of personal details about your family so that they don't make a faux pas on the day. The other thing is, if you've got any special requirements for a group, you know, you must have a shot with Granny because she hasn't been in a picture with your mum and your aunt for a zillion years, then give the details of that to the photographer so he can add it to his set list.
Right.
Okay.
So you can never have too much information really in your...
Never have too much information. The more we know, the better. If someone is a blinker, for example, if they blink very often, tell the photographer. He will then be aware of it so he can make sure he's taking enough pictures to cover without catching a shot with blinking. Having said that though, with the electronics of today, one can quite easily change heads on pictures, open eyes, do all sorts of things like that.
The possibilities are endless.
Endless, definitely. The other thing to bear in mind as well is your photographer is a human being. He's going to be working perhaps from, if your wedding's at 2 o'clock, he may arrive at your house by 12 o'clock. If he's travelled any distance, that means he will have started mid-morning. By the time you go and sit down for your wedding breakfast, it may be 5 or 6 o'clock. Your photographer may also be supplying you services right through the night. Do think he likes to eat as well, so give him some food.
Keep him fed and watered.
Fed and watered, yeah. Always makes for a happier service,
Absolutely
definitely.
Good. Brian, thank you very much for talking to me today.
Absolute pleasure, thank you.
When booking a photographer, it's important to ensure that the work you're seeing is that of the photographer that you're commissioning. Establish what's actually covered by the cost you're paying your photographer. For example, will prints and the wedding album be extra costs? Inform your photographer of any particular or special shots that you'll need.